I'd like to call to order this regular board meeting for the month of January 2025. Hey. And, no remote attendance expected at this time. The first item of business this evening is for us to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of the semi-annual review of executive session minutes. Do we have a motion to go into executive session for that purpose?
So moved.
Second?
I'm
just louder.
Okay, so that's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the point? So none. Let's do a roll call starting with Laura.
Aye.
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 And that carries unanimously with 4 commissioners voting, and we're expecting our 5th commissioner in the room momentarily.
Michael, I assume we want to go down the hall?
Yes,
Come back to this room?
Yeah, I think that makes the most sense to me.
Yeah, it comes out down that way.
Got everybody here? Okay, I would like to call this meeting back to order and convene our regular meeting here. The actions we have taken in executive session are to approve the executive session minutes from December 3rd, 2024 and December 10th, 2024. We also determined to release, after a semi-annual review of the unreleased minutes, we decided to release those from July 9, 2024, and finally to destroy the recording, that is the audio recording of the executive session held on the 11th of July, 2023. And so we're on to accepting the agenda for the remainder of the meeting. Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I move to accept the agenda as presented.
Second.
That's moved and seconded. Any discussion on the point? Hearing none, let's do a roll call starting with Roger.
Aye.
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 And that carries unanimously. First item on the agenda then is public comment. Is there anyone from the public here wishing to make a comment? Delighted to see there are 2 people from the public here. Thank you both for coming out tonight. Just staff introductions.
None tonight.
Not, I have too cold. Huh?
I think Jamil put it on the agenda with Paulo, but I didn't know anything about it and I didn't remind them, so I'm guessing they're not showing up tonight.
We'll be back.
Yeah,
Don't blame them.
Okay.
but Corey is one of our BSWs for all recreation facilities, so our building service workers, custodial team.
Well, then that takes us to the UPTAC report, for which there was no meeting in December, and I assume therefore no report. Okay. Then we're on to the consent agenda. And for the benefit of those who may be watching this, the items on the consent agenda this evening are approval of the minutes of the December 3rd, 2024 joint board meeting with the UPD and the Urbana Parks Foundation and study session and executive session. Approval of the minutes of the December 5th joint meeting with the Champaign Park District. 4C, the special rep. Approval of the minutes of the December 10, 2024 regular board meeting. Approval of the minutes of the December 10, 2024 executive session, which I think we just approved in executive session. And a receipt of the monthly departmental reports to wit administration, planning and operations, and recreation. Approval of the monthly paid accounts payable. Action to accept the philanthropy report and gifts listed with gratitude. And then there's a approval of travel, meal, and lodging expenses for trips up to the annual Parks Convention in Chicago, namely for Commissioner Stratton, for Commissioner Hastings, for the Updeck Chair, Hannah Sheets, and for Executive Director Tim Bartlett, also to attend the iParks meeting, which is held in conjunction. And also Urbana Park District incoming Commissioner Ashley Withers, and lastly, incoming Commissioner Sarah Roper, both of whom are with us here today. So, it is the purview of any single commissioner to remove any or all of these items from the consent agenda for separate action and discussion if they so choose. Is there anyone wishing to modify the consent agenda?
I move to approve all of the action items on the consent agenda and accept all the information items listed on the consent agenda in an omnibus manner.
Second.
Yes, we've moved and seconded, and under the rules of the consent agenda at this point, there be no further discussion. Do a roll call starting with Cedric at the left.
Aye.
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 And that carries unanimously with all 5 commissioners voting in the affirmative. So we're on to the report section, starting with financial reports.
All right, we will, excuse me, hope I can get through this without getting tickled. We'll start with our fund balance reports. This is reports showing our revenues and expenditures, showing the prior 12-month period, the budget for the current period, and preliminary and audited results for the past 8 months, ending on December 31st of 2024. Page 1 is listed as our sum line. This is all funds in the district except our capital improvements budget. And here we reflect revenues of $13,765,065. This is about a $2 million increase over last month, and essentially even with last year. Again, this is a direct reflection of the fund transferring that has to happen to pay our bond commitments, and those were paid in December on the 15th as required. Both for our ARS bond and our GO bond. Also, we did receive our final and sixth property tax distribution. It's about $546,000, I believe. We did earn a little bit of interest on that too, so about $21,000 in interest on that as well. So that's the lion's share of the increase in revenues. Total expenditures listed here are $11,042,716. This is about a $3 million increase over last month and slightly higher than last year, about $552. Having again to do with the transfers out to commit our bond payment obligations. This is a surplus after 8 months, meaning an excess of revenues over expenditures of $2,722,349. Page 2 is our capital improvements fund by itself. Here we reflect revenues of $5,878,857. And we have total expenditures of $6,384,335. Here we show a deficit of $505,477. And then page 3, this is labeled as sum 3. This is all funds district-wide, noting at the bottom right that our ending fund balance for all funds aggregate $12,324,034. And then the remaining pages are the individual fund reports for our working funds, which are general, recreation, and museum, with the last page being our indoor pool UIAC. Any questions on the revenues and expenditures? Okay, moving on to our treasurer's report. This is a report of the amount of cash the district has on a single day of December 31st, 2024, listing all 25 funds down the left-hand side, and across the top listing where all the cash is being invested. And the total at the bottom right is $13,820,077.35. Page 2, the top section, this lists the amounts that we have in interest-bearing accounts. So of that $13,820,000 on hand, $10,155,729 is out in interest-bearing accounts at varying rates. The bottom half of this is the interfund loans section. There is no new activity here. We did receive very late in December the school district's reimbursement of $164,000. So although this still reflects the exchange between the rec and the indoor pool of the interfund loans, those will be relieved in January. So we'll see that number come down next month. And then last page of the treasurer's report, this is the disbursements for the month of December. Vendor payments match the paid accounts payable in our consent agenda. And then the total disbursements of funds, this includes all payroll and all vendors. We do have longevity and holiday awards in here as well, as we do every December. Ending disbursements, $2,579,995.63. Again, here in the bond principal and interest, you can see our payment, $813,000 here. And then capital, $1 million. Getting closer to having lower numbers there too. I'm excited about that. Are there any questions on the treasurer's report? Okay, I present to you the treasurer's report for audit.
I move to accept the treasurer's report for audit.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the point? Hearing none, let's do a roll call, starting with Roger.
Aye.
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 That carries unanimously.
All right, we'll move on to the capital budget reports. Page 1 is our 2019A capital budget. We did receive some income, some revenues here, and there were 72,746 received. This is for health and wellness donations that were, aggregated at the foundation, and they've moved that on to the park district. And then $198,925 was received for our DCEO grant. This is also in respect to the Health and Wellness Center. Under the expenditures, we expensed $1,461 to core. I apologize, typo, that's not number 10, that's number 20. Then we had $3,365 expense to NCS, number 4. This is part of the, I believe this is the remaining of the IT bill for the Health and Wellness Center. $210,267, another portion of the core, number 20. Construction invoice, and then a small bill, $222 to MET, and this was for testing, number 16. And lastly, using the general fund transfer, $7,750. This is a miscellaneous, still fulfilling our FF&E items, so a lot of just smaller items. This is our first look at our 2025 capital budget. Noting here that we did receive our general obligation bond. Our sale was in December, so we received those funds at the end of the month. Unfortunately, that's a second typo. $968,720 were received. And then under expenditures due to that bond sale, we do pay a cost of issuance of $7,000 to Chapman and Cutler and $6,500 to Spear Financial. 2024 budget, just some small expenditures here, $22 out of our construction crew projects. This is just for some miscellaneous hardware. We expensed $9,235 to Pella for replacement windows at the Nature Center. And under contingency, $58,884 towards the slide tower at UIAC. Again, UIAC normally, it doesn't come out of this budget, but with us expending $400,000 in capital improvements. Not all those funds are liquid within the Brown Fund at the moment. So you'll notice at the top, I'm not sure if I've got it on here yet. I do have it at the top. I'm sorry, English. I wrote Brown at the top. But that money is coming out of the English Fund
Okay.
upon maturity. So I'll make those corrections on there. But I've listed the revenue coming in here. That expense is not coming out of any of our bond money or any of that. So this is just waiting for money to mature in the English Fund. And we've got 2023. No revenues here during December. Under the expenditures, $624 for some plaques in our tributes under tributes and donations. Hardscapes and fencing, $7,570 expense to Fairground Engineering number 2, and this is in regards to Southbridge Park. And $4,484 expense to iZone. This was in regards to the interpretive circle at Meadowbrook Park for an interpretive panel. 2022, again from the foundation, $122,629 was received for the Pickett's fundraiser that they did. They forwarded that money out to the district. And then $2,082 was expended for plaques for the sculpture benches that went into Prairie Play, and also, I don't know what that communication panel was, but that was also part of Prairie Play, if I'm not mistaken.
So the Pickett's net after the cost raised $22,000, basically.
Do you know that number?
Not off the top of my head.
I don't, okay.
Yeah.
Thought it was more, but we can verify that.
Then 2021, 2020, and 2019 budgets did not see any new activity during December. And I'll turn it over to Derek and Andy for project updates.
Okay, so probably my last set of health and wellness pictures for a while, I'm assuming, but we had some professional photos taken. It was a joint effort with CORE and Farnsworth and us to hire a professional photographer, so I decided I'd share some of those and kind of probably wrap up my health and wellness updates for the most part as part of this meeting until we have some larger improvements or bigger things happening at the site. So just sharing a few of those here tonight, and then in the reception area. So this will be used also for our marketing purposes, public information, and getting some good views of the sculpture and inside the gym with the mural, community space, and then up on the track itself, and in the fitness rooms, your cardio space and strength space, I'll call it, I guess. Group fitness, zooming in on BP's piece in the reception area. Some work that actually was done and since our last board meeting was we had the final signage installed in late December, and our track padding was put in as well the week of Christmas, and that wraps up a lot of those items before. Obviously, you all were at the ribbon cutting. We still have warranty things that we're working through, and still, as Laura mentioned, FF&E purchasing there as well. So there's still a lot going on, but for the most part, we're open, and I think we'll probably talk about it a little bit later. What's going on with the building with the public. But tonight I wanted to focus on a couple bids we actually have out. We've gone through these in previous meetings, but while they're out now and before we have a recommendation to the board, I thought I'd bring them back again as a reminder of the two projects that we have. So the first one is the Weaver Park Trailhead associated with KRT. It's the DCEO project that we have with Champaign and Vermillion Preserve Districts. So this bid has been out for a little over a week. It is scheduled to be opened at the end of this month. We have a pre-bid meeting next week. The project, again, consists of paving the existing lot, We do have an alternate to expand that lot with concrete. If not, it'll just be the base parking lot as you see here. That will now be concrete rather than the aggregate that's sealed aggregate that's there currently. A little bit of path work that is going to the new pavilion. We modeled kind of a bike parking and repair station area that's similar to what we did at Prairie Play. And we have another alternate on the bid for parking lot lighting as well. The pavilion is modeled very similarly to the recent pavilion project by the Nature Center, the Up Deck Learning Pavilion. This one does not have a fireplace, but it's about the same size pavilion, 2 single-user restrooms, and then basically the center is a storage area for maintenance and basically a plumbing chase as well.
And no sidewalks.
No drop down, yeah, correct. This is a seating area here, it's kind of unique, not part of the project, but we wanted to design some space for some unique seating that will look towards the south, out to the prairie. Internally, we've been talking about potentially doing some sort of Adirondack seating row, benches combined together. We have an Adirondack bench at Southridge currently as well, so we're trying to do something a little bit unique and looking out over the park there. That would be an owner furnished item, but we've accounted for it in our design. So like I said, this is out to bid now, opening at the end of this month. We are allotting for potential extra needs of time. So typically we have contractors hold their bid price for 45 days. We've actually extended that to 60 days. We think there may be some additional work after we get our bid pricing to work with DCEO to adjust our, I was going to say scope, but it's our budget revisions so that we fit into the categories appropriately. And we have basically all of our ducks in a row before we authorize the contractor to do any purchasing or we get into any sort of contract with that. So we've been shooting for a recommendation in February. It may actually be in March. It's just kind of depending on how things work out from the time that we have that bid opening and when we can get materials in for the board packet for you all, and then also for the Champaign County Forest Preserve.
How much interest has this raised with contractors?
So I was just looking at that today. We've got, I think, 9 claim holders, but some of those are more subs to the general contractor. So I've compiled a list from what I saw from the Up Deck Learning Pavilion that those contractors were not yet appearing on our claim holders list for this project. And I've reached out to Farnsworth as well to see if they had any other good contacts, and my plan is tomorrow to reach out to them with a link to get the plan set, so we can try to get some more stirred up. And then our other project is Southridge. So this has been out to bid about the same time, about 2 weeks right now. We had our pre-bid meeting at the end of last week, and our bid opening is the same day as the Weaver Trailhead project. So, and again, we've talked a little bit about this, but this is, I highlighted some areas. So basically the existing asphalt path will now be a 5-foot concrete path. And then we also added additional bench pads. The benches themselves are not part of the bid. It's something that we look forward to do for donor named benches potentially, and we've added these where you see yellow highlights is basically where a contractor will do bench pads, and then we could have a donor get a naming bench for themselves that we would install later. And then similarly to Blair Park, we've talked with the city and we're looking to do an on-street accessible parking, and this will have a ramp up to the main path system, the city sidewalk that runs north to south there on Myra Ridge. And then we'll have, I think it's a 6-foot wide basically landing for a ramp from a vehicle off of the parking stall itself. Like I said, this one, it's, owner basically funded, so we don't have any grants that we need to work with after the bid. So I'm hoping we'll have a recommendation to the board next month. At our project meeting, we're also talking about getting communication out to the neighbors well in advance of any construction activities. Similarly to what we've done to a number of projects recently, where we can flyer the neighbors that are right along the park edge, and then we're going to look to do some yard signs there as well, so the regular park users will get that information before any heavy construction activity begins, and if they have any questions or concerns, they would call.
You want me to post it on our next board page? I'm happy to.
Yes,
to do
okay.
that, so just let
That's a
me
good
know.
idea. Okay.
'Cause I did that for the original.
I think we're going to start having stuff here in the next few weeks.
Okay,
So
yeah, just let me know.
okay, thanks. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Same flyer that goes out to neighbors will also let them know that we're going to be contacting some of them about some boundary encroachments. It's something we've been working with Matt Deering on for some time, and he's got a couple of models that we're looking at. Figured it's a good time when we're bringing some good news, but maybe a handful of these folks will have to work with on some not so great news. But I think the approach that Matt's recommending is a very fair one. It's basically a temporary lease is what it is. Yeah.
Can I ask just a quick question of, like, what would be the time frame to have it completely finished from start to finish?
So if we get an award in February, we probably have contract documents ready by March, and then it's all dependent on weather. In our bid specifications, we have June 1st as substantial completion. But things happen quite frequently.
I'm just
That
sure
can get
my
pushed back,
neighbors
but that's
will
what
start
we're-
asking me,
that's what we're
how
shooting
long
for.
is my yard gonna be tore up? And I would like to be able to give them a vague answer.
Well, we've noted where contractors are supposed to get construction access and where their laydown areas are at, so they should be securing the site very well and not encroaching on anybody's yard. So there's an access construction point here, and there's one over here, so it's all on the park portion. And then they'll have to
The city
restore that.
repairing that section of road.
Yeah, I don't know.
What we find is when we have the pre-construction meeting, we actually have a contractor selected. That's when we get a better idea of the schedule. There's some groups that would go through this very quickly. There's others that might take a little bit of time.
Okay, happy to answer any other questions.
How much bid interest on this one?
This one has 9 claim holders right now, and they're almost all like general contractors that would be. I'm very optimistic on this one. I don't know. They're very interested in this one right now.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah, any other questions or?
That'd be great.
I'll mention that one other project it's really the City of Urbana project, the Baker's Lane Trail is progressing. They're at the point now where they have some draft drawings, and they've shared those with BPAC, the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. There was one resident, a neighbor in Scottswood that came, was concerned about tree loss. We've been looking at it with Matt, our natural areas coordinator. The places where we're seeing tree loss are the most impactful areas near the wetland. The reasons that we're getting away from the wetland, that was an area that was very sacred in the we were park planning process. And to do so, we need to move through those trees. They're all opportunistic, kind of volunteer trees. Many are invasive, but where we can, we're certainly going to save trees, particularly the big ones. So it's not like we're looking at an opportunity to remove trees. We're just doing so where we need to. The only place where we have on park property some removals at the north end as it comes towards the swale. That swale is delineated as wetland, so there too we're staying away from the wetland area of the swale. There's some tree loss there as well. Matt and I are going to walk the property on Friday and look into the tree and see if there's any significant concern from what's being promoted right now. The other thing that the city is working with us on is the lighting. We keep reinforcing the importance of having dark sky lighting. At this point, they're interested in trying to get the same lighting we have in Newburgh Park. IDOT does have some requirements that you don't single source lighting, and so we're working with the city on that. If we can get the lighting that we want, if the city is able to work it out with IDOT, I conveyed to the city we'd be willing to take on maintenance and ownership of those lights. If it doesn't work out that way, if it's the city's standard light that they're using elsewhere, which is, they say about 98% dark sky compliant, they would own them and maintain them. So we're working through those things right now. You've heard some about the tree concern?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I just, I don't know if the neighbor has been satisfied, but there's been social media posts through Nextdoor pointing at us, not the city, right? I think it was, we were mentioned.
Okay.
So I understand that it's hard to distinguish between whose project this is because of the,
Right. And it's truly, a joint project,
Yeah.
so a lot of it is on property.
right?
After the meeting, I gave her my contact information, offered to meet with her. I haven't heard back. I'll reach out to her again.
And I don't know, I mean, this was, and I don't know who the individual was or if it was multiple, but you know how these things go. They sometimes spiral, so.
Sure.
Would it be fair to say that the people who are making these comments are actually not Park District residents?
I'm certain that she's outside the district. I'm not sure about other people that have been on Nextdoor.
But neighbor and adjacent to the path, new path.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt that we would save any, knowing what we did just on North Broadway, right? I mean, we are typically very good at saving all the trees that we possibly can,
Right, absolutely.
that are worth
And
saving.
that works out.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, so.
Any other questions? I guess we're ready to move on to executive director's report. Vince?
Couple updates. I hope you all noticed the You Belong Here report. Always chock full of good things and good information, so appreciate the staff working on that. Next, I wanted to kind of open up, moving to the Health and Wellness Center. We just had the grand opening, and I thought it might be good for us to have a collective discussion, share anything that anybody heard. If you heard any feedback, positive or negative, certainly would like to hear that. To start us out, I think Courtney's got some numbers we want to go over, just update everybody.
So it's been a fantastic week. Let's start it with that. It's just been amazing. It's the diversity, the age groups, culture, it's just been phenomenal. Everything that we planned it to do. So far, from that standpoint, it's been very active. The grand opening, we had 603 visitors that day. And so you're talking from 11 till 2:30, right? So that was pretty impressive.
Which staff member gets the right number?
I believe it was Jared, who's like our Urbana supervisor. One of our Urbana supervisors, so part-time staff member. I was off, I said 450. The day count, so we've had, in the 6 days, not counting the 603, so if you include the 603, we've had 1,963 visits. 6 days. Pretty impressive. Total membership check-ins, so people who bought passes checking in, 546 visits. Total memberships sold, we have 469 members, 80 of which are Silver Sneaker members. That does not include any of our OSF membership yet. We're still working, Bethany's just trying to train staff and keep the building moving. But we have used up $5,120 of OSF scholarships, so that shows we're giving a lot of those out. And total revenue in the 6 days is $33,270.
How do we calculate?
Membership sales, not including Silver Sneakers. Daily passes, and a few padlocks.
Because you're selling padlocks. Now I know it.
So, again, we don't have an exact number of total numbers for OSF. She's still got a stack that she's going through. And I'm still working with her on what kind of numbers I want to present each time.
And so, because, So you said there were no OSF participants who checked in yet? Or we were able to sort of tag them so that we know?
We are
Okay.
in our system,
In a system, yeah.
yes. And some of those visits that I talked about could be OSF
Okay.
as well. And we specifically have them in there so that we can manage how well we're doing. When we hand them out, how well are they being used? And if not, that way we can adjust and find different ways. So we've got lots of our groups, some school district administration are sending people our way. We're working with the disabled housing group that's across the street. And they're using the OSF scholarships. Have a lot of people come from the neighborhood, coming in and asking. So we're still working on getting you good solid numbers with the OSF. Again, like I said, we just get their stuff and we have it on a pile, we gotta enter it all still. So it's in the works, but for the first week, that's maybe.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Well, as we talked about hours on the facility, correct? And there was discussion on, well, what about earlier in the morning?
Yeah.
Starting next Tuesday, we open up at 6 a.m.
Yes.
Everyone's asking for it. We know Kenita was on, I don't know, Facebook. I checked it last night. And there was a teacher there asking when we were going to do open up earlier. And I responded, we're taking all suggestions. And we had our weekly meeting today. And so we're going to go at 6 a.m. Monday through Friday, at least for the winter. There could be seasonal changes, obviously, if it's not being used, and we'll be monitoring how many people are using it as well, but 6 a.m. I don't think is going to be an issue. We're also going to stay open until 8:30 instead of 8. We have a class that ends at 8:15, and I don't think it matters what time we close. We're going to be trying to get people out of the building. But since we've got a class going until 8:15, we're going to expand it to 8:30. And then again on Sunday, our times were at noon and actually I should correct that, starting on Sunday our hours changed. We're going to go to 10 o'clock on Sunday mornings to open instead of noon. Another thing, we got a 10:30 class, which we may be adjusting that in the future, not this program guide, but in the future.
Did you mention Saturday?
Probably not, but it's staying the same. It's 8 to 5.
Okay.
And we have not had, our classes actually start this week, so that is bringing in another influx. Tim and I were there for a meeting and one class ended and another one was filling up.
Yeah, there were 20 people in the yoga class last Thursday that I was
Yeah,
in.
that was awesome. Yeah, so, yeah, and I talked with Kerr and all of our fitness classes are doing really well right now. So the new ones and the ones that we've had at Phillips and still do have at Phillips. So yeah, numbers are looking great. Hearing only good things, so we keep making a few adjustments. Meredith, you in your email you mentioned the shoe thing. Yeah, we're working on that. Annie's actually looking for some kind of cubbies or something that we can put on the outside.
There's nowhere to put your shoes outside the new fitness room.
Yeah.
That's one thing. That floor, you don't want to.
No. Things like that too, right?
Pickleball is booming.
Yeah.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Just shocking.
I think we had the first couple of days, of course, first Monday we were closed because of the snow. And on Tuesday, we had to actually use all 6 courts for pickleball. There was that many people. The other thing that hasn't happened yet is we have hoopsters basketball, which is the little kids, but that's only 2 hours on Saturday. In 2 weeks, we start our actual league. So that's a lot more people coming into the building on Saturday. None of our adult volleyball leagues have started yet. We got adult pickleball leagues that haven't started yet, so all those things are gonna be filing in, so, yeah, I mean, couldn't ask for a better start.
Do you think registration in, I mean, so there's, classes start this week, right? So
Correct.
how is registration in, some of the classes are new for health and wellness.
Well, I don't know the exact numbers, but when I ask her, she says all the classes are doing well. That's what I
I
think.
mean, some of them moved, but some of them are also new.
Right,
Yeah.
and one guy we ran into today, he moved from Phillips over to the new facility. So,
How are the instructors who moved, how are they dealing with that?
good, they're doing good.
And the other thing I would be remiss, and I would have to explain this to Kathy, she didn't ask, and that is, how are you coming in terms of making sure that we have enough material, mass, weights, all that kind of stuff for both facilities? Because early on, it was a problem.
We just, in my meeting today, we are ordering a few more weights for Phillips and for the health and wellness. However, we stocked the new one, the new place from FF&E, so we didn't take anything from Phillips
Okay.
over there. So it's all new equipment at Phillips. They may have taken one set of the little weights,
That's what happened.
and that's what's being ordered. But
Okay.
everything else, for some reason, when we ordered all the weights, we ended up with a bunch of, well, we had a couple different staff working on it. So Ashley and Elsie were working with it, and then Jamil and Kern. And so, anyhow, we're sending some of the bigger weights back, and the new weights are coming in that are smaller.
I'll report.
Yeah. So, that's the one piece.
Okay, thanks.
I just gotta ask, how are the mechanicals performing in the up and down weather?
We're still dialing things in.
There was some air conditioning definitely going on Thursday last week.
There's some what?
Well, it's cold air blowing out,
Oh.
but I'm sure,
In the
yeah,
bathroom.
in the main area.
And can you monitor on a daily basis what the utility costs are?
Oh, I did. I don't think so. I mean, I think
Costs?
utility
Well,
costs.
not, maybe what the usage is, I mean, it's,
We can monitor the temperatures as they relate to the set points in all the spaces. And we've had spaces on the first floor primarily that are typically below the range that they should be with their set point. The gym's been a little warm, and the second floor hallway's been a little bit warm. The first floor IT room's been a little cold, and it's been
Tweaking it.
yeah.
talking with Core and Dave's House and
Well,
fine-tuning all
there's
that.
the comfort issue, and then there's the, how much, in the way of utilities are you using, how they're coming into the building in order to keep it in whatever state it is in.
Yeah.
And
I'm looking at that, Mike. I'm curious. Ameren, I don't know if they're doing real-time monitoring right now. I know that recently Illinois American Water started doing that. And I've been able to occasionally tell when we have a spike in water use. I'll check Ameren. I'm curious.
Definitely still tweaking with things though, because even the day of the open house, we had our heating, cooling people there that morning. We were having a couple little items that need fixed, or needed fixed.
And are those adjustments included in the guarantee for a period of time?
Yeah, Core sets up, so there's a warranty website that basically Core has set up where we can put in claims, and then Core's team of warranty people get all those claims. We can upload pictures and describe the issue, whatever it is. We've had issues with a door for a couple months too, that's always been there. And then they can work with their subcontractors to get them out to do it. It's a nice system,
It
really.
really is. Yeah.
Other comments, reflections, conversations, any feedback from people you talked to or people you didn't even know that you overheard? I'm just curious, we were hoping to at least offer the opportunity to get some feedback.
So I played some pickleball with some people, and one request was just like open later, so that just like for people that work, opportunities to do things in the evening. And the other thing that was just like minor was more clocks in the gym. I think like, I know there's like the one digital on one of the ends, but I don't know what else there is. Like obviously there's like the game clocks, but just like being able to like tell what time it is in there. Because everyone usually doesn't have their phones or whatever on them. So that was the only thing that was brought up to me. But everybody really loves the space and they're excited to see what else is coming.
One thing we have done, just let you know some things, adjustments that are being made, right? We moved the coat rack into the corner, the north corner of the track, so people can come in and see their coats. So we did do that. We've got a coat rack now in the fitness storage area that people go in there and they hang up their coat. Probably a temporary fix until we get our cubbies, depending on what we do for cubbies, but.
And the coat racks have a shoe rack on the bottom. That's where I put my outside shoes. I use the cubbies on the first floor. Under the stairs. Yeah. I change my shoe for walking. Is my
The only bad thing about the coat racks being in that corner was when you're going in the other direction, people go and get their coats and then go back against the grain of the tracks.
Walk the other way.
Near collisions, but we survived. We're going at a walking pace, so, you know.
Right?
Just big excitement.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We're so excited, just, I think, blown away is what I kept hearing from people. They just were, one lady kept going in and visiting the bathroom. She's like, it's calming. She's like, the tiles, and like, she went in there like 3 or 4 times. She goes, shh, don't judge me. I'm like, I'm not judging you. She would just stand there and look around. It was great. I mean, even if, that says a lot. If your bathrooms are that inviting, that says a lot. I said to try out the other spaces too, but enjoy the bathroom.
Well, I did have, hasn't come to fruition yet, but I did have one couple say, this place is great, and what I need to do, put my name on one of those circles on the wall, so we'll see where that ends up.
So somebody did ask me about phase 2
Yeah.
already.
Right,
Um,
good.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
and in terms of what the plan is,
Right.
and so I think there's a lot of excitement.
Right. I think one thing that would help our staff start to break down and get better costing on, each amenity, probably think about some sort of order that might make sense, and then try to share that out so that we can get more people who, know about that and understand about that.
We talked about that at length at the foundation meeting yesterday, and Kelsey did talk about that, and it was helpful. They're pumped on
Right.
that. So.
Right. It's definitely needed, and, we've got space, and I think that would really complete that. Easy to say, certainly a lot of heavy lifting, to get there, but knowing there's interest and a lot of support, that helps.
Apparently, they did not all get the news that the 3.3 million was not happening.
Exactly.
There was some shock and disappointment about
Right.
that. But,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, we're just wanting to do that. But certainly, I think that's a way we can really gauge.
Yes,
also.
absolutely.
That was the way I look at that. That was last year. So,
Exactly. Yeah, 2020.
so we're looking at another fiscal year and see where we can go with that.
Yeah.
I guess one more update, when we talked about the OSF donation, it was about being a partner, right? So we had the $30,000 for scholarships, but I've also connected again, I got another meeting next week with their health wellness coordinator, working on the possibility of health screenings, physicals, flu shots, those kinds of things, to see how we can incorporate that in the facility so it's more of a wellness perspective.
That would be great.
And it'd be great to have in that, for all of our members, but also for all the neighbors in the area. So we'll be working on those kinds of plans again, trying to build that relationship as a partner.
think the neighborhood participation was very exciting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lots of people came from the neighborhood
Yeah.
and were asking about costs, and I sent several over, and about the scholarships, and we got them the forms. So that was, I think that was a huge triumph, that the neighborhood is embracing this.
Right.
So, and one lady just told me, she said, I still am surprised you built this here, but I'm so happy. And that's, what a great, comment.
And it's not turning anyone down in the community, everybody's coming, no matter where the facility is, that's the exciting piece.
Speaking of relationships, health and wellness too, Corky and I had a really good meeting with Amy Brown and Monica Miles from Don Moyer's Boys and Girls Club. We learned a little more about their program. Obviously, it's a Champaign facility base because they're Park Street and then Martin Center in Champaign. So it's likely due to transportation and activities they have planned, will continue in that way. But we started talking about new opportunities that would perhaps be here in Urbana. And so I think just today we identified a couple of different things. Family events that could bring the whole family, that might be participants, but the location would be in Urbana. Special events that could be created, that could be offered. And then we talked about weekend use. We know there's people in the club that live probably in the neighborhood or in Urbana as a way that if they're not at the Boys and Girls Club during the week, would they be available on weekends as a start? We also had a separate conversation about potential swim lesson programs. So we could try to get more swimming, I think. So we have some ideas. We're going to meet again, probably a couple of meetings to see how we can work these things out. So I'm really excited about that. Both areas, both in health and wellness and with anything with aquatics. It'd be really, really interesting. And, we have people that are probably available to help us expand any programming. So I think we want to continue on that and see what we can do. I think their immediate impressions were fantastic. They did notice how warm and inviting the facility is, compared to their other spaces. So I think they really could see that it was a welcoming atmosphere. I think that was the word they kept using. It's so welcoming here, and so we were pleased with that. So it was good to meet with them and catch up with them and see what kind of programming options we could develop, specifically with them. So stay tuned. We'll continue with that. Moving on, we've been having small group staff team meetings. I think I let the board know that we'll be starting in January, and we've done this the last couple of years, is kind of break our work groups down, go to their facilities with the leadership team, the four of us, sit down and meet. Generally, there's a team building exercise, a meet and greet thing. But I did go through and start the transitions, talked about board members that will be changing in the election. Obviously, we have incoming, and we talked about how solid we are with the incoming potential new electors. Certainly shared my information about transitioning out of the executive director's position and gave everyone a timetable and also explained the process we're going through, working with IAPD to do a search for a new executive director. So able to share that information, share my last date, answer any questions about that, and also share that we're trying to work out the intent is to work out the schedule so that we could have perhaps some meet and greet opportunities for final candidates with managers, supervisors, that sort of level, and with the leadership team as appropriate. So I think we covered all those. We did have one group that had some illness, so we have to reschedule with the Nature Center group, but we'll be meeting with them. So we'll have gone through all of those groups. Everyone's up to speed. Certainly my news and the commissioner's news is public now. So I think we're comfortable with that and can easily move forward as a whole group. Did want to mention, kind of back on the Kickapoo Rail Trail, we talked about tree work and Baker's Lane, and our steering committee, starting last year after Arbor Day, we determined that might be a good location to stage 2025 Arbor Day, something to do with the school and that area. We had a chance at the opening. Corky and I talked with Dr. Ivor Tatum, asked if he got permission to work with Dr. Williams, campus there, Preston Williams campus. But kind of want to make sure everyone's clear, and hopefully folks are listening at home and paying attention. We've got multiple projects. We've got the Kickapoo Rail Trail coming in from the east. The Forest Preserve is going to be challenged with probably tree removals behind the homes that live along there to allow the construction of that, path to come in. These are unmanaged landscapes. They haven't been touched or maintained or inventoried or any sort of care throughout many, many years. We don't really fully know what the rail companies do, but I haven't seen any work done, and it generally looks overgrown to me. And we have another situation with the city working in Baker's Lane. That has always been a designated transportation right-of-way. It has been on the books and the plans, and now they're able to funding to build that trail. So this will transition a time of low maintenance, I wouldn't say no maintenance, but virtually no maintenance on the edge of Urbana. So again, another unmanaged landscape that has been left for years to infill with invasive, undesirable plants. We have other areas around Weaver Park like that on the west corridor where a future trail will go through in that area, so we know about that. And then the Park District with our efforts at health and wellness between Prairie Park and Weaver, there's been some areas that need to be managed. So I think what we're targeting this year is to try to direct our Arbor Day activities in that area as appropriate, maybe more in the park. Derek and staff will probably look at locations. And we're starting to work with a couple of groups. We met today with Rebecca McBride. She has a foundation called Osprey. She's very interested in helping get new trees into Champaign-Urbana and throughout the Forest Preserve's properties. So we met and talked about support for Arbor Day. I think we're going to be able to acquire some trees at no cost through that. There's a real interest with that group too to create stewardship opportunities for youth to learn more, understand more about tree and tree care, maybe even up to a career opportunity or intern or a apprentice type of arrangement. So we're having those discussions. There's other tree interested groups. We know that Champaign County Design and Conservation Foundation, which I was there representing, Mary Ellen Wallner was there representing. We're interested in supporting trees, promoting trees, and information about Arbor Day. We also know that Urbana Rotary has funds that can be spent locally, and so there are probably likely tree funds that can be pulled from club resources to help plant more trees in those areas. So what we want to do is work with the city, the Park District, and the Forest Reserve in those impact areas and try to do targeted tree plantings to get more desirable species that we ultimately would like to see, multiplied as a, albeit first step. And there's a big difference between, but those are the only trees I have or look at to allow the clearing that's necessary for the trail work and the appurtenances that need to be built there. And I think this is work that could continue maybe year after year for ongoing efforts. So I think there are ways to replace trees, get higher quality trees. Of course, we all want it instant. We'd love to remove, put 500 new trees out there and have them all mature, right away. Won't work like that, but the best time to do it is as soon as we can and get those clearings and plantings started. I also meant to mention the Main Street properties that were acquired by the Friends Group. The PRT Friends Group acquired the connector parcels on Main Street from the corridor that lead to Main Street that will cross to Weaver Park. There's clearing that's occurred there, and I'm sure neighbors have noticed. So between the work that they're doing, the Friends Group, that we're doing, there could be opportunities for new trees in that. So we'd love to talk with people, we understand their concerns, but we have to fully understand these are largely unmanaged landscapes that have never been touched by the loving care of the city of Urbana's tree work or the Urbana Park District or the Forest Preserve. So if you look at our other success with tree plantings and programs, I think we would like to at least reassure people that we have a plan and approach that we can eventually make it better. But we've got to go through this transitional time to clear for construction, clearing for right-of-way, and then making sure that we have opportunities to come back and put good things in. So we do hope people are listening and that they're willing to work with us, whether they're in the city or out, at least in those impact zones, we're tracking and we're aware. And so we think we can improve that situation. We just ask for a little patience and cooperation. So that we can get these great things. But remember, all the people that have been counting on these trails coming because they need it for work, recreation, research, science, environmental reasons, it's a benefit that's happening now for them. So if we can continue to take turns serve one another and work together with resources, we'll probably see more good things, come together there. So I did want to kind of reassure our board and let the public know as best as we can tonight. We understand it, we're on it, we have interest, and I think there's means and methods that we can apply to actually get things done. Any questions about that? Again, it's never fast enough, and if it's out your back door window, we understand that. But we do want to try to address that, and we'd like to hear from people. If there's something we can do or information we can share, we'd be open to that. So we'll continue with that.
My only question is, I assume there are no updates, but in terms of the railroad actual property or the lease of that.
We have our meeting Friday, and we may get some update, but I know the requests have been made. It's usually often a waiting game, but we do need to know that because it's sort of now getting closer to when we need to know that information. So I appreciate that. We'll report back any updates on that. Moving along, just a few other things. I think about that. And then lastly, conference. I think all the arrangements have been made for everybody to get there to participate in the conference. Friday evening, we have our staff board team social. It will be at Corky Suite on 6 o'clock. Does that work for you?
Yep.
And we'll get the room number out once we get there and have room assignments. So I think everyone's set and should have a good conference experience again this year. I think that's all I have, but I can answer any questions if you have. Great.
Okay, thanks, John. Moving on to the President's report. Don't have a great deal to add in terms of upcoming meeting agendas. We have board study session on February 4, where we will finally hear from our auditors in regards to the audit. But as I understand it, it's already been filed with the county.
State comptroller,
Yeah,
all of the agencies.
All of the agencies.
All of the required agencies.
And you had been told by GFOA that we were not going to get dinged for this.
Correct.
In terms of it being a problem.
You are correct.
Yeah. So it's been a little bit of a strange process, but apparently we are not unique in this circumstance either.
Correct.
And then February 11th, will be our regular board meeting. Corky's going to have lots of new statistics about that.
Yeah, well, not this year because we just started that facility, right?
Oh, okay, so it's only a review for the last calendar year.
Yeah, last
Okay.
calendar year. But we will also have, you'll probably get more of that information at the study session because all the program managers will be here doing their area discussion, so I'm sure they'll be focusing on that in that study session.
So moving on to liaison reports, there was a finance study group meeting on the 3rd of January, although Roger was unable to attend. He was on counting eagles, was it?
I was off counting eagles because of the snowstorm on Sunday, so I moved it up.
But there was some discussion with staff and me. A lot of that was about the grand opening that occurred the next day. Also, some public art discussion that Jim has thoughts on a couple of pieces, perhaps ultimately being acquired by the district, but there's a question of how to go about both financing and making those arrangements. So we may hear something about that in the not terribly distant future. A brief discussion of wage and benefits for the coming fiscal year, as I recall, and there was some discussion of the Weaver Park KRT Pavilion and some updates. Much of that you've already been presented here this evening. And a bit about the budget planning for the coming fiscal year. Not a lot of detail there, but that is moving forward. Some discussion of Delphine Park and possible land acquisition there. And some of the hurdles that might be involved with that, but that is ongoing as well. And there were some capital improvement budget project updates, but I think those were covered here already this evening. So, next meeting will be the 31st of January. Policy study group, I assume this.
We have not met, but we will meet in February.
And Parks Foundation,
Foundation met yesterday. Kelsey reported that the foundation had almost $150,000 in receipts this past year. Also that they are working on a portfolio for giving opportunities for the KRT trailhead. And the big thing for them, I think, is they're expanding normally they meet from noon to 1:30, and they're going to expand that by another half hour because they're going to have a consultant come in on March the 10th to meet with them in terms of board development. And that's really critical for them at this period. So that's about it.
and by more development, you mean board development?
More board development. Did I just say development?
Yeah.
More board development.
Any questions for us? Okay, tech planning study group, and again, that's to be D.
Yeah, we will be meeting.
Okay. That takes us into Roman numeral 9, the old business. And item A, action to accept the 2024 annual comprehensive financial report, which is sitting in front of you.
So you guys are,
Laura, I just want to say something first.
Absolutely.
Before, I think when Michael alluded, we have a little bit different schedule with the way the reports come out, and I just want to compliment our business staff for really working really hard to try to keep all of this on schedule. It's very difficult. We had reasons, and so I just want to sort of preface that. It's a little unusual of past years. We're all in good standing, but didn't want it to reflect any negatively on our staff operations or anything that staff oversees as part of that. I'll turn it over to you, Laura.
I appreciate that, Tim. Yeah, there were a lot of obstacles, and I'm sure the director that's in charge of our account at Signage will, can elaborate on that if there are further, questions. But, there were staffing issues on their side as well. We had a lot of new GASB pronouncements that required additional work, yet the time frame, remained the same to get them done in, which is why you have 4 books instead of 2. Normally, we have our audit book itself, and then, of course, the letter to the commissioners. But the additional 2 have to do specifically with the fact that we received over $750,000 in federal grant monies, which required us to also have a single audit for compliance with that aspect. So, and of course, we had $2.5 million in federal funding. Compliments of ARPA, thank you very much, city and county. Anyway, so there are 4 books here. 2 of them have to do directly with a single audit, and then in tandem with a single audit, the GATA, which is the grantee portal, where we report annually all of our doings and all of our notice of state awards, and all that is done in that GATA portal. So anyway, as we mentioned earlier, the audit itself is completed. It was given to us with an unmodified opinion, which is the highest of the auditing standards, so everything is really great there still. And everything has been filed as normal with the state comptroller's office, with FEMA, and all of the standard and poor's, DUNS, all of the agencies. So everything is done in that respect. Again, I don't think I would be getting into this. I know that the details of this will be shared by Tom Sawicki at our study session. So, but I'm happy to answer any questions. about the audit itself.
Given the extra work, how much additional expense are we going to incur?
None.
So they're covered.
Okay, qualifier, the single audit is not part of our normal. So our normal audit saw no increase in expenditure whatsoever, it's contractual. But yes, we did incur an additional $3,000 for the single audit.
Not really.
Not horrible,
Yeah.
not horrible.
And that's in relation to the grants, right?
It is solely to the grants.
Required.
It's required.
I think $3,000 to audit how much money?
2.5 million.
Yeah, 2.5 million, that's a bargain.
Yep. So,
Sometimes you gotta spend money to get it.
There you go.
indeed, that's true.
Well, I move to accept the 2024 annual comprehensive financial report for the year ended April 30th, 2024.
Second.
That's been moved in a second. Is there any discussion on the point? Hearing none, let's do a roll call, starting with Cedric.
Aye.
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 That carries unanimously. Takes us to item B, any old business removed from the consent agenda, of which there was none. On then to new business.
Planning's got information for you.
Pardon? Yeah,
Planning's got information next.
okay.
So our 2025 capital budget included the replacement of 2 wide area mowers. That's part of our regular schedule that we have, and we go through and we have a recommendation to approve the budget. We met with, shortly after that budget was approved, we met with ground staff and our mechanic and learned a couple things for the replacement of the wide areas. One was that they wanted to move away from one of the wide areas to try to get a more maneuverable mower. So they would keep one of the big ones that has the wings that come down, and then the other one they wanted to go with another 0-turn 72-inch. They also let us know that one of the worst mowers that we have in our fleet was actually our athletic fields mower. And that, when we checked the schedule, was actually due in 2026. So the thought was, is there any way we can try to move some of the mowers around to maybe replace that one instead of maybe one of the wide area mowers? So anyway, we scheduled a visit with our sales rep at AHW here in Urbana, and basically asked them to give us a lot of different quotes and options that we could evaluate the best way to move forward. And good news was that kind of making that adjustment, going from 2 wide area mowers to 1 wide area with a 0-turn 72-inch saves quite a bit of money. The wide area mowers are just quite a bit more expensive. So doing that basically allows us to, well within the budget that we had for just the wide area replacement, which was $100,000, able to trade in all 3 of the mowers and get all 3 replacements for $62,000.15. So basically what I broke down in the memo was just that there's a number of separate quotes. So the first quote was for the athletics fields mower with the trade-in of the existing athletic fields mower. And then that one has an attachment for a cab that goes on it, so that was a separate quote as well. And then in the third quote, we have the wide area mower. We were still going to buy one, and then we were trading in both of our wide area mowers. So that basically nets that new wide area mower to about $12,000 after the trade-in of 2. And then the final one, there is no trade-in, but that was the new 0-turn 72-inch that we're replacing one of those wide area mowers with. So all in all, this also frees up capital funds in 2026 because now we don't have the athletic fields mower to replace that year as well. So it kind of worked out as best as it could, really, to kind of get everything that our grounds crew thought they would need for mowers that was scheduled this year, and then go ahead and take care of one for next year.
It's like you could cover the wide areas with a single wide area mower and plus using the other, the one that would go on.
gonna be more efficient around trees and narrow spots, less efficient around big areas, so we're gonna find out. I'm glad we're trying it. It'll be the first zero radius we've had. University uses them all the time, so.
I would note, we have $250,000 total in that vehicles and equipment budget, so we still have some more vehicles that will be coming to you in the coming months. So I know there's, I believe, 3 half-ton trucks, 1 3/4-ton truck, and then we have a custodial vehicle replacement as well that we're working on getting quotes for. So.
Well, I move the Urbana Park District Board of Commissioners award the purchase of 3 more mowers, attachments, and trade-in of current models with attachments in the amount of $62,015.15 to AHW LLC of Urbana.
Second?
That's moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion or questions on the complaint? Hearing none, let's do a roll call, starting with Roger.
Aye.
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 Okay. Got your approval.
Thank you.
There was no new business removed from the consent agenda, so we're on to comments from commissioners.
Just another thank you to the staff for the great opening and all the changes they made, and I know that was a priority for all your staff, so, and then still making other things work, so thank you for that. Very successful.
Exciting time.
Mhm.
For sure.
Any other comments? Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn to executive session for discussing a matter of employment?
I move in accordance with Section 2, Part C, Exception Number 1 of the Illinois Open Meetings Act to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussing an employment matter.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call starting with Sid.
Aye.
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 Okay. Adjourn to the executive session.
We can recommend it staying in this room since
Yeah.
everyone else was gone and we'll come back into any, at least public session.